the fog clung to the skyscrapers of San Francisco, a familiar shroud that Amelia Vance had come to associate with both the city's unique charm and the persistent uncertainty of her startup journey. It was late 2018, and Amelia, 32 years old, woke before dawn in her modest, sun-starved apartment in the Outer Mission. The faint hum of the city filtering through her window was a constant reminder of the vibrant, cutthroat ecosystem she was trying to conquer. Her startup, EthaFlow, was her lifeblood. For the past 3 years, it had consumed her every waking hour, her every thought. Amelia's morning ritual was a well-worn path. A quick shower, strong black coffee brewed in a chipped mug, and a rapid scan of energy market news and clean tech policy updates. She moved with a practiced efficiency born of necessity, her small kitchen table often doubling as a secondary workspace, strewn with printouts, scribbled notes, and a worn laptop. Her wardrobe was a practical rotation of business-casual blazers, dark jeans, and comfortable, yet presentable, blouses. Today, she chose a sharp navy blazer, a silent armor for the battles ahead. EthaFlow aimed to revolutionize grid management with an AI-driven platform that optimized renewable energy distribution. It was ambitious, complex, and deeply rooted in Amelia's belief that technology could solve the planet's most pressing environmental challenges. Her co-founder, Ben Carter, a brilliant but socially awkward software engineer, was the technical backbone. Together, they'd built a minimum viable product, MVP, that had garnered some initial pilot interest from a few Bay Area municipalities. They were on the cusp of something big, they felt, but on the cusp in Silicon Valley was a state of perpetual limbo until the funding arrived. Their office was a cramped, brightly lit corner in a co-working space in Soma, a hive of hopeful entrepreneurs buzzing with nervous energy. The air always smelled faintly of burnt coffee and ambition. Amelia loved it, even the late nights fueled by instant noodles and the camaraderie with other founders battling similar demons. They were a small team, 5 dedicated individuals, each pouring their youth and talent into EthaFlow. The seed round was critical. Without it, the pilots wouldn't scale, the team couldn't expand, and their vision would remain just that, a vision. Today, however, was different. Today was the meeting with Atlas Capital, specifically with Sterling Thorne. Thorne was a legend in the venture capital world, a man whose reputation preceded him like a dark cloud. He was known for his astute market predictions, his ruthless negotiation tactics, and an almost unshakable confidence that bordered on arrogance. Rumor had it, he was a Capricorn, methodical, disciplined, and with an unyielding belief in his own judgment. For Amelia, securing a meeting with Atlas Capital was a coup. Getting Thorne's attention felt like being granted an audience with a dragon. Amelia and Ben arrived at the Atlas Capital offices in the financial district precisely 10 minutes early. The reception area was an exercise in understated luxury, polished marble, minimalist art, and a hushed atmosphere that amplified every footstep. Amelia felt a familiar flutter of nerves, quickly suppressed. She ran through her mental checklist. Slides memorized, data points ready, answers to potential objections rehearsed. This was her moment. They were led into a spacious, impeccably designed conference room overlooking the bay. The iconic Salesforce Tower pierced the sky outside the window, a monument to technological triumph. Sterling Thorne entered moments later, a man in his late 50s with impeccably tailored suits, silver hair combed back, and eyes that missed nothing. His handshake was firm, his gaze direct and piercing. 2 junior partners sat at the long table beside him, their expressions unreadable. Amelia began her pitch, her voice clear and confident despite the tremor in her stomach. She spoke of the inefficiencies of current energy grids, the rising demand for renewables, the increasing threat of climate change, and how EthaFlow's AI platform provided a scalable, resilient solution. She presented compelling data from their pilot projects, highlighting reduced energy waste and improved grid stability. Ben, usually reserved, chimed in with technical specifics, his passion for the code momentarily overriding his shyness. Sterling Thorne listened, his expression neutral, occasionally scribbling a note. Amelia tried to gauge his interest, but his poker face was legendary. She finished, concluding with their financial projections, and the seed round asked $2 million with a clear path to Series A. There was a moment of silence. The junior partners exchanged quick glances. Then Thorne leaned back in his chair, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. His voice, when he spoke, was a low, resonant baritone. "Miss Vance," he began, "your presentation is enthusiastic. Your passion for the environment is evident." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "But frankly, Etha Flow strikes me as exceptionally green." The word hit Amelia like a physical blow. Not green in the sense of sustainable, but green as in naive, inexperienced, unripe. He didn't stop there. "You're too focused on saving the planet, Miss Vance, and not nearly enough on making money," Thorne continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "This decentralized dream, these government incentives, it's all rather idealistic, isn't it? The market demands tangible returns, not eco-crusades. Your projections, while colorful, are predicated on a future that is, quite frankly, still decades away from being truly profitable for investors like Atlas. We invest in proven models, Miss Vance, not ambitious environmental pamphlets." He gestured dismissively at her slide deck. "You and your co-founder," he added, looking at Ben with a raised eyebrow, "you're bright, certainly. But you lack the pragmatism, the cutthroat edge, required to navigate this market. This sector, while gaining traction, is still far too nascent, too reliant on shifting political winds. You're simply too green for Atlas Capital. We'll pass." The finality of his tone, the dismissive wave of his hand, the patronizing smile, it all converged into a searing humiliation. The junior partners kept their eyes fixed on their notepads, betraying no emotion. Amelia felt her face flush, a hot wave of shame and anger washing over her. She tried to formulate a retort to defend her vision, but the words caught in her throat. Sterling Thorne had already moved on, gathering his papers, effectively ending the meeting. Leaving the opulent Atlas Capital offices, Amelia felt hollowed out. The San Francisco fog now seemed to mirror her internal state, dense, opaque, suffocating. Ben, usually a quiet presence, walked beside her in stunned silence. He saw the fire in her eyes, though she said nothing. They reached the co-working space. The usual buzz of activity felt distant, irrelevant. Amelia went straight to their small corner office, slumping into her chair. The rejection wasn't just a no, it was a personal attack, a brutal dismissal of her life's work, her intellect, her very understanding of the market. "Too green," the words echoed in her mind, a mocking refrain. She replayed Thorne's smirk, his arrogant posture, his utterly dismissive tone. The injustice burned. A profound despair threatened to consume her. Was he right? Was she too idealistic? Had she misjudged the market, her own capabilities? Doubt, a venomous serpent, began to coil around her heart. She thought of her team, their sacrifices, their unwavering faith in Etha Flow. Had she led them down a blind alley? Tears welled in her eyes, hot and unwelcome. She quickly blinked them back. Crying wouldn't solve anything. Ben sat beside her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Amelia, he's wrong. You know he's wrong. Our data speaks for itself. He just doesn't get it." His words, meant to comfort, only stoked the embers of her fury. Thorne didn't get it because he wouldn't get it. He was too entrenched in his old-world view of capital, too blinded by short-term profits to see the seismic shift happening beneath his feet. The despair didn't break her. It hardened her. That very night, as the city lights twinkled outside her window, a cold, resolute fire began to burn within Amelia. She would prove him wrong. Not just wrong about Etha Flow, but wrong about her, wrong about the future, and wrong about what green truly meant. This wasn't just about funding anymore. It was about vindication. Amelia immersed herself in a frenzy of work, driven by an almost obsessive need to erase Thorne's words. She spent countless nights researching, not just market trends, but the investors themselves. She dissected the portfolios of venture capital firms, impact funds, and corporate VCs, looking for patterns, for common threads, for any indication of their investment philosophy beyond the glossy brochures. Sterling Thorne's green insult, intended to wound, ironically pointed her towards her greatest advantage. He had dismissed the very segment of the market that was about to explode. Her secret plan wasn't a clandestine operation, but a relentless, strategic reevaluation of her entire approach. She realized Thorne had viewed her pitch through a narrow, outdated lens. She needed to find investors who saw the world through her lens, or at least a similar one. Her advantage lay in her deep understanding of policy and macroenvironmental trends, areas Thorne clearly undervalued. While he focused on traditional energy's established profits, Amelia saw the gathering storm of regulatory changes, carbon pricing, and corporate sustainability mandates. She began reframing EthaFlow's narrative. It wasn't just sustainable energy. It was future-proof infrastructure, risk mitigation against climate policy shifts, and a competitive advantage in a rapidly evolving energy landscape. She wasn't just selling tech. She was selling resilience, foresight, and compliance. She leveraged her existing, albeit small, network. She reached out to environmental advocacy groups, clean tech accelerators, and even government officials she'd met during EthaFlow's pilot phases. She sought introductions, not to just any VC, but to impact investors, family offices with a strong ESG mandate, and the corporate venture arms of utility companies and large enterprises that were actively seeking to green their operations. These were the green investors Sterling Thorne had likely scoffed at, but they were growing in power and influence. Amelia refined her pitch deck, stripping away some of the more overtly environmental language and replacing it with hard-hitting business cases. She emphasized the cost savings from optimized energy use, the potential for government contracts through compliance with new regulations, and the long-term asset value of a resilient, decentralized grid. She highlighted the burgeoning market for carbon credits and renewable energy certificates, tying EthaFlow directly to these financial instruments. She learned to speak the language of profit and sustainability simultaneously, demonstrating that the two were not mutually exclusive, but increasingly intertwined. She faced more rejections, of course. Funding rounds were brutal, but with each no, she gained a clearer understanding of what wasn't working and what was. She was resilient, fueled by the memory of Thorne's arrogant dismissal. She meticulously tracked every interaction, every piece of feedback, every nuance of investor interest. Then, things began to shift. In late 2018 and early 2019, several major climate reports were released, underscoring the urgency of transitioning to renewable energy. Simultaneously, a new wave of government incentives for clean energy infrastructure was announced, and several large corporations committed to aggressive carbon reduction targets. The market Thorne had dismissed as decades away was suddenly here, and it was demanding solutions like EthaFlow. Amelia's strategic pivot positioned EthaFlow perfectly. She had anticipated these trends, not with idealism, but with diligent research and a nuanced understanding of policy. She started securing second meetings, then verbal commitments. A small impact fund based in Boston, Viridian Ventures, committed. Then, the corporate venture arm of a major European utility, Global Power Innovations, saw the strategic value. A prominent family office in California, known for its long-term, socially conscious investments, joined the syndicate. Momentum built. EthaFlow, once dismissed as green, was now becoming a hot commodity. The seed round, initially targeted at $2 million, quickly approached $3 million as more investors expressed interest. It became clear the round would be oversubscribed. News travels fast in the tight-knit world of venture capital, especially news of a successful round for a company that was previously overlooked. Amelia received an email, then a phone call. It was from a junior partner at Atlas Capital requesting a follow-up meeting. She politely declined, citing her overwhelming schedule. A few days later, in mid-March 2019, Amelia's phone rang. The caller ID displayed an unfamiliar number, but a quick search revealed it belonged to Atlas Capital. She took a deep breath and answered. "Amelia Vance, this is Sterling Thorne." His voice was smooth, almost unctuous, a stark contrast to his previous dismissive tone. There was a practiced warmth that felt entirely disingenuous. "Mr. Thorne," Amelia replied, her voice calm and even, betraying none of the triumph bubbling beneath the surface. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Amelia, I've been following Etha Flow's progress," he began, his tone almost apologetic. "It seems I may have misjudged the pace of the market's shift towards sustainable infrastructure. Your vision, while perhaps ahead of its time when we last spoke, appears to be remarkably prescient now. I regret not having the foresight to fully appreciate your potential." He paused, a calculated silence. Atlas Capital would be very interested in revisiting our conversation. "We understand you're currently in a seed round, and we'd be delighted to participate, perhaps even lead a larger close or discuss a subsequent series." Amelia felt a surge of ice-cold satisfaction. This was it, the moment she had played over and over in her mind. She allowed a small, knowing smile to touch her lips, unseen by him. "Thank you, Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice clear and professional. "I appreciate your renewed interest in Etha Flow. It's true, we've had significant progress, and the market has indeed accelerated faster than many anticipated." She paused, letting him absorb her words before delivering the punch. "However, I must inform you that our seed round is officially closed, and in fact, it was significantly oversubscribed. We received commitments that far exceeded our initial target, and unfortunately, there are no more allocations available at this stage." There was a noticeable silence on Thorne's end, a fraction of a second too long. Amelia imagined his usually composed face tightening, the confident smirk replaced by a flicker of surprise, perhaps even chagrin. "Closed?" Thorne repeated, his voice losing some of its earlier smoothness, a hint of genuine disappointment creeping in. "Already, I was given to understand there might still be some room for strategic partners." "I'm afraid not, Mr. Thorne," Amelia affirmed, her voice holding just the right note of polite regret, devoid of malice, yet undeniably firm. "Our green vision, as you once called it, resonated profoundly with partners who not only understood our technology, but also fully embraced the long-term value and strategic imperative of sustainable infrastructure. They saw beyond the immediate profitability hurdles and recognized the immense future potential." The unspoken message hung in the air. "You didn't. You dismissed us and you missed out." Thorne cleared his throat. "I see. Well, that's unfortunate for us. Please keep Atlas Capital in mind for any future rounds, Amelia. We would be very keen to explore a Series A when the time comes." He was already pivoting, trying to salvage some future access, some semblance of control. "We will certainly keep you in mind, Mr. Thorne," Amelia replied, knowing full well she wouldn't. The call ended a moment later. Amelia hung up the phone, a profound sense of lightness settling over her. It wasn't a triumphant shout, but a quiet, deeply satisfying sense of vindication. She hadn't destroyed him. She had simply outmaneuvered him. She had proven that her vision, her green ideals, were not idealistic flaws but powerful advantages. Sterling Thorne, the shrewd Capricorn investor, had been so set in his traditional ways, so confident in his outdated judgment, that he had overlooked a multi-million-dollar opportunity staring him in the face. He couldn't enter the round not because he lacked capital, but because he lacked foresight and the humility to see beyond his own limited perspective. Etha Flow thrived. The seed round provided the capital to scale their pilot projects, expand their engineering team, and refine their platform. Within a year, they had secured significant contracts with several major cities and even an international utility provider. The green market that Thorne had dismissed exploded, validating every one of Amelia's initial projections. Amelia, now running a bustling office in a larger, dedicated space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a vibrant San Francisco, occasionally saw news articles featuring Sterling Thorne. He continued to make headlines for his investments, but there was always a small, private smile that played on her lips. She knew he carried the quiet burden of the one that got away, the company he had dismissed as green, only to watch it grow into a formidable force. His arrogance had cost him dearly, and for Amelia, that silent victory was sweeter than any public fanfare. She had closed the round, and he couldn't enter not just the financial round, but the future itself.